I call this meeting to order. Welcome to meeting number 20 of the Standing Committee on Science and Research. The committee is meeting to study artificial intelligence. I would like to make a few comments for the benefit of the witnesses and the members. Please wait until I recognize you by name before speaking. A reminder that all comments should be addressed through the chair. I would like to welcome our witness for today, Honorable Evan Solomon, Minister of Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation, and also the Member of Parliament for Toronto Centre, which is very close to my heart because I landed in 1999 and that was my first home. So, and we are also joined by Mark Shan, Associate Deputy Minister, Department of Industry. Mr. Solomon, you will have 5 minutes for your opening remarks. Thanks a lot for appearing before the committee and taking out time out of your busy schedule. And after that, we will get into the round of questioning. So you have the floor. Please go ahead.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Présidente, Mesdames et Messieurs, les membres du comité. Je vous remercie de m'avoir invité à participer à votre étude sur l'intelligence artificielle. Je suis accompagné aujourd'hui par les fonctionnaires de mon ministère. Je suis heureuse d'avoir l'occasion de présenter le travail en cours pour renforcer le leadership du Canada dans ces domaines importants et en rapide evolution. AI is already shaping every sector of our economy. And Madam Chair, it will only grow. Canada enters this moment with real strengths, though, world-class researchers, a vibrant ecosystem of startups and scale-ups, and recognized leadership in responsible AI. We are investing in every aspect of this ecosystem, and therefore in the future of our economy, especially in science and research, which is the focus of our discussion today. Canada, of course, was the first country to launch a national AI strategy back in 2017. We're very proud of that. And one of the first to appoint a dedicated minister for the transformative technology AI, and I'm honored to have the job. But leadership is not a birthright. Countries around the world are moving very quickly, and Canada is doing the same with ambition, clarity, and responsibility. Our guiding principle is AI for all. Madam Chair, we know technology moves at the speed of innovation, but citizens move at the speed of trust. So we need to build on a foundation of trust so we can have the economy of the future. Now, Canada has deep roots in this field. Our researchers invented modern AI, and Canada is home to the three great pioneers, Joshua Bengio at Mila, our institute in Montreal, Geoffrey Hinton at our Vector Institute in Toronto, and Rich Sutton at the Amy Institute in Edmonton. All three, by the way, Turing Prize winner, the highest honor in AI around the world. And of course, Geoffrey Hinton also won the Nobel. These are widely known as the godfathers of AI, and their work has laid the foundation for today's systems and continues to anchor Canada's strength in research training and responsible AI leadership. Since this new ministry has been established, we've taken concrete steps to build on their foundation. This fall, we launched the National AI Task Force, bringing together 28 leaders from research, industry, labor, and civil society. In over 30 days, they completed a focused sprint that is informing a refreshed AI strategy we will introduce in the new year, almost 2 years ahead of schedule. To support this, more than 11,300 Canadians shared ideas through our public portal, which is the largest digital engagement in our department's history, along with dozens of submissions from stakeholder groups. Canadians are part of this moment, and they want AI to deliver real benefits. That's why we're investing in the infrastructure that accompanies the need to compete. Our $300 million AI Compute Access Fund is part of a $2 billion sovereign compute strategy, and that received more than 1,300 applications demonstrating the strength and ambition of Canada's AI ecosystem. The economic impacts are also clear. Today, 800,000 Canadians work in the tech and digital sector, the largest and fastest growing job sector in the country, and 150,000 workers specifically work in AI. These are good, high-paying jobs that are central to our future prosperity. A recent Deloitte and Vector Institute study found that AI contributes roughly $100 billion to Canada's economy, including more than 17,000 new AI-related jobs created in Ontario alone last year. For every federal dollar invested in this sector, nearly $10 have come from the private sector. That's why we're supporting companies that are building globally competitive solutions. Let me name a few. We signed a memorandum of understanding with Cohere, a large language model, one of the best in the world, the first of its kind between the Government of Canada and a Canadian AI company, to explore how advanced models can support better government services for the public. In Oakville, companies like Geotab are using AI across millions of connected vehicles. On the West Coast, companies like Sanctuary AI are pushing the frontier of robotics. These firms reflect the breadth of Canadian talent and the opportunity ahead. We continue to strengthen our research foundations. Last week alone, I announced $42 million to the University of Toronto to expand its advanced computing capacity, delivered through the Digital Research Alliance of Canada. And Amy, Mila, and Vector remain critical anchors for research excellence and talent development. The next great discoveries are happening right here in Canada. Talent is one of our great advantages, and Budget 2025 includes $1.7 billion to attract 1,000 of the top researchers around the world and their labs to come to Canada and expand pathways for skilled workers in AI, quantum, and emerging technologies. And the government is leading by example. We are introducing AI tools inside departments, working with trusted technology providers to modernize service delivery and ensure public servants have the tools they need, following clear principles of safety and transparency and human oversight to deliver better services to Canadians. Finally, trust is essential. That is why we're preparing updated privacy and data protection legislation to keep Canadians' information safe, to protect children online, and ensure companies are accountable for how personal data is handled in the age of AI. All this work is about Canada's modern digital sovereignty. It means having the capacity, the talent, the infrastructure, the partnerships to shape our digital future and maintain our leadership in science and research. We are building in Canada, we are buying in Canada, and we are believing in Canada. Madam Chair, we're the pioneers and the foundations of modern AI, and we are turning that foundation into economic prosperity, stronger public service, better jobs, and trusted innovation for Canadians. Merci, thank you, and I welcome the committee's questions.
Thank you, Minister. We will now start our first round of questioning of 6 minutes each, and we will start with MP Baldinelli. Please go ahead. You have 6 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Minister, for being with us this afternoon. I'm going to get right into it, Minister. In terms of AI, what is your definition of sovereignty as it relates to IP and data retention?
Thank you so much for the question. Sovereignty is at the core of our strategy, and making sure that we build a sovereign AI ecosystem is critical. Sovereign AI has multiple definitions. There's operational, there's legal in terms of how we RFP, but I would say this is making sure Canada's most sensitive data is protected under Canadian law.
Can I follow up on that question? Because in August, you had indicated earlier, government signed an MOU with Cohere. Yes. $240 million was provided from the Canadian Sovereign AI Compute Strategy. The government's own release said it will enable Cohere to secure enough private capital to incentivize its strategic partners to build a new cutting-edge, multi-billion-dollar AI data center in Canada. One of the first moves Cohere did with the $240 million was to partner with an American company called CoreWeave to build this AI computing data center. So what is so Canadian or sovereign about this?
Thank you for asking a great question about one of our national champions, Cohere, which we are very proud to back. Remember, I just want to remind the committee and the honorable members, there are only 4 countries in the world that has large language models: the U.S., China, one in France, and Canada, Cohere. This investment in Cohere, remember, this was an investment in Cohere. We are absolutely proud of it because they now have a large language model.
Sorry for interrupting, 1% at a time. So I would request all MPs
well, thank
to
you,
please
Madam Chair,
let
but
Minister respond.
Yeah, but Minister, with all due respect, the investment in the data center now and the creation of the data center, we've had companies come forward here. One, for example, was eStructure that mentions that they have built and they have control of 14 data centers. Is there anything in the MOU that would guarantee that investments such that you provided would go to Canadian companies?
We are very proud to have invested in Cohere. This is the most important issue, is that we are investing in Canadian companies that keep their IP in Canada. They employ 450 people here in Canada. They are trading around the world. And I think most Canadians are very supportive of Cohere's business, and that they are a Canadian company building here in Canada. Now, how they want to grow their company is a Cohere question. But I will tell you this. It is absolutely, we are very proud to invest in Cohere.
But do you have any guardrails as part of the money that you provided to ensure that the monies that you're providing, taxpayer dollars, are going to ensure that Canadian companies, like eStructure, for example, that came forward, they had no idea of this arrangement between Cohere and CoreWeave? And so, but we're going back to the sovereignty issue. So now CoreWeave is an American tech company, right? And so, for example, the U.S. Cloud Act was enacted in 2018, and that act allows U.S. enforcement to compel U.S. technology to companies to disclose data they control regardless of where that data is stored globally. So is CoreWeave, which is building that data center, is subject to the U.S. Cloud Act.
Let me tell you about how proud we are, first of all, to invest in Cohere.
Yeah, but does it meet your definition of sovereign?
Oh, Cohere absolutely is a sovereign company.
CoreWeave and the data center, the U.S. Cloud Act.
I've said repeatedly that sovereignty is not solitude. Our great Canadian companies are going to trade with many companies, and they're going to work with many global companies. But Cohere is a Canadian company employing 450 Canadians, good jobs, trading around the world, building a large language model that I should say Canadian companies like RBC is their client, Bell is their client. They are a champion company, and we are very happy to have made sure that they have the capacity and tools to grow into a global company.
Now, Minister, CoreWeave is a partner with NVIDIA, who supplies CoreWeave with GPUs, also known as graphic processing units. In fact, they signed a deal between themselves for $6.8 billion in August. So are you aware of any of these companies in any way connected with Brookfield?
We are very happy to have invested in Cohere, and I'm not sure who Cohere's clients may be, but I will say that Cohere, the investment in Cohere to make sure that they have the capacity and the tools to thrive, to employ Canadians, to keep our IP here, is very much a champion story that I'm sure the honourable member would also support. We want Canadian companies here. We want IP here. We want Canadian jobs here. And we want to make sure that of the 4 countries that have large language models, and it's competitive, Canada has Cohere, and I'm sure the honourable member would support the idea of keeping Cohere here, building jobs here, building
Canadian jobs here. Yes.
Well, these are Canadian jobs,
and we're creating data centers with the U.S. companies, which could be subject to the U.S. Cloud Act. How is that very sovereign? For one, my last question to you is: as Minister of AI, have you ever approached the Prime Minister to have discussions with regards to his holdings in regards to companies such as NVIDIA? And inputs such as Brookfield. Brookfield and NVIDIA, they just signed an agreement November 19th for the creation of a $100 billion AI infrastructure fund. Are you aware of that?
Time is up. We will have to proceed to the next member. Maybe you will come to that in the second round. We will now proceed to MP Rana for 6 minutes. Please go ahead, MP Rana.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Minister, for your time. As you mentioned, back in 2017, Canada was one of the first countries to launch a national AI strategy. So how did this prepare Canada for the recent innovation in AI?
Thank you so much for the question. I really appreciate this. Look, we have been investing in Canada's AI ecosystem to build it from top to bottom, and it's very important that Canada has this sovereign ecosystem that we support, and so it can work obviously with companies around the world, but keep Canadian jobs here, Canadian IP here, and that's why we've invested in foundational research. We've invested in our commercialization. We've invested in our large language model companies. We've invested in making sure that we have the opportunity to grow. And we got to pair our world-class researchers with great digital infrastructure, with our industry partnerships. And one of the ways we do that and we should be very proud, I'm glad that the honorable member is asking me about this, Madam Chair, of our 3 national institutes. What's happening at Vector in Toronto and Mila in Montreal and Amy in Edmonton, Canadians would be very proud of. I wish Canadians could see the remarkable, not just the research, the world-leading research, but the commercialization that goes on there, turning that research into remarkable companies, and these companies are going on to do remarkable things. One of the things that we see, I'll give you one example, if I may. RL Cortec is a company started by a professor in machine learning called Martha White. She works in Edmonton at the University of Alberta. Martha White was doing research in how AI can change water purification systems. Very important in Canada, very important around the world. And she never thought that her research would turn into a company, but she created a company. She's raised between $7 and $10 million now for that company. She's the CEO of RL Cortec. We met with her. She's employing people, but she's converted her research into jobs working with Amy, one of our research institutes. And just another great example of when you invest here and you become the leaders in AI research and science, which is what this committee is all about, you really see how that turns into commercialization, into jobs, into solutions that will have a positive impact on the world.
Thank you, Minister. And how does the government plan to balance collaboration between the private sector and the Canadian research institutions with the need to protect Canadian intellectual property and data sovereignty?
It's a great question, and the government is working very closely to make sure that we have ways to incentivize the private sector. And first of all, our AI institutes, that's part of their mandate. But we also have a digital cluster called Scale AI based in Montreal. And their job is to also help commercialize AI and to support AI companies and small businesses, mid-sized businesses, and make sure. But we also have a $2 billion investment fund that we are investing very strongly across sectors, billions of dollars in AI infrastructure, our Compute Access Fund, all of this to help stimulate growth, investment, job creation in this sector.
Budget 2025 saw massive investment in advancing artificial intelligence programs such as the AI Compute Access Fund and the Sovereign Compute Infrastructure Program received almost $1 billion in funding. So could you speak to how these investments push Canada into the forefront of AI research and its application for Canadian companies?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you're seeing that these investments have really, really paid off. And again, I'll go back to that, first of all, that Deloitte study, the fact that we've had $100 billion of economic growth here because of this sector. And the fact that for every dollar invested here from the federal government, we've had 10x return, 10 times the return. I think that's just one example. But you have, for example, we're speaking about Cohere, which, the founders of Cohere studied under Geoffrey Hinton. Geoffrey Hinton, of course, is the leader of the Vector Institute, and they is a Canadian headquartered large language model developers, very important. Again, just so Canadians appreciate that, when we talk about large language models, people will know ChatGPT and Anthropic. They hear about those. Canada has Cohere, and only the U.S., China, there's one in France, and Canada have large language models. And those are the kind of systems that can, generate language and their predictions. And this is a very important company that Canada has the intellectual property here, the technology here, and the growth coming from Canada. And that is really stems from the fact that it begins with world-leading research.
If you can wind up in the next 5
world-leading
seconds,
frontier scholarship that we've got and that we support here.
Time is up. We will now proceed to MP Blanchet-Jonca for 6 minutes. Please go ahead.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Je salue Monsieur le ministre qui est avec nous. Vous savez, mon système d'intelligence humaine a entendu des mots très forts de votre part. Je les répète pour être certain qu'on est bien aligné. Vous avez mentionné qu'il faut bâtir sur la confiance, que la confiance est essentielle. Vous avez parlé de la transparence. Mais, Monsieur le ministre, vous avez refusé à 6 reprises l'invitation de la part du comité de l'éthique, alors que votre ministère mène une consultation sur l'intelligence artificielle. Est-ce que, selon ce qui a été révélé dans le journal de la presse, des acteurs ont pu soumettre des réponses de façon anonyme à votre consultation publique? Alors, quand vous parlez de transparence, de confiance, moi, la question que je vous pose, là, comment les Canadiens peuvent-ils avoir confiance dans votre stratégie d'intelligence artificielle si des intervenants anonymes, incluant de potentiels acteurs étrangers, peuvent influencer les orientations publiques et surtout pendant que vous-même, vous refusez de répondre aux questions du Parlement?
Merci pour la question. Il faut que je réponds peut-être en anglais parce que c'est plus facile. Je comprends les questions en français, mais peut-être pas. Parce que je parle comme une vache espagnole ici, peut-être je réponds en anglais.
Comme vous dites, comme dit bien le premier ministre, who cares, hein?
Non, c'est très important.
Le français, c'est pas grave.
Non.
Hein? Une langue secondaire, c'est pas une langue officielle, on comprend.
Non, c'est une langue très importante et je comprends tout. Let me just say, we are very proud of our task force. 28 members that we chose, and we are in the middle of, remember, they had 30 days. They submitted their proposals. We are currently making sure that they are translated and coded, and all of them will be made public. That's the first thing. Secondly, the 11,300 public submissions, which we're also very proud of, all of those will be made public as well. So this is a fully transparent process, and we want it to be because this is the largest digital public engagement in our industry's history. I'm also very proud of the fact.
Ça répond à ma question, Monsieur le ministre. Merci beaucoup.
Okay.
Donc, aujourd'hui, vous pouvez nous garantir que la liste va être publique des intervenants, des mémoires reçues dans le cadre de la consultation. Mais j'aimerais que vous nous dites, est-ce que vous pouvez nous garantir que des acteurs étrangers n'auront pas influencé de façon anonyme la consultation qui doit orienter la stratégie canadienne en intelligence artificielle? Monsieur le ministre, je vous parle, hein, c'est moi, je pose des questions. Je comprends que ça ne vous intéresse peut-être pas.
Merci. Merci pour la question. C'est une question très importante, and that's why I want to make sure I give you the exact right answer, always. And what we will be doing is making sure there are summaries of all the feedback that we've received here. But again, part of what's happening here is that these public engagements will feed into our national AI strategy that we're building, and we're happy to talk about. We have an AI strategy, as you know,
Monsieur le ministre,
but we're building.
Je reprends vos mots. Transparence, confiance. Vous me confirmez aujourd'hui que tout ça va être rendu public. Les noms, les consultations, les mémoires déposées dans la consultation publique de votre stratégie nationale. Oui ou non?
I've said again, and I'm very, very proud of the fact that we've already made all the names of our 28 members of our task force public. These are public. You will be able to read them. As for the 11,300 public submissions, I don't know every single public submission name.
Là, je comprends que vous gagnez du temps. Vous ne voulez pas répondre à la question. Transparence, confiance. La confiance est essentielle. Ça prend la transparence. C'est vos propres mots dans votre allocution. Je reviens encore là-dessus. Est-ce que vous allez rendre public l'ensemble des noms des gens qui ont contribué à la consultation publique pour s'assurer qu'il n'y a personne qui est anonyme là-dedans et que les gens ne voient pas que des gens, peut-être des forces étrangères, voudraient venir influencer Je le répète de façon anonyme, la stratégie nationale de l'intelligence artificielle du Canada.
Again, let me just say we are very transparent about the task force members that we publicly asked to submit their proposals. We also opened up a portal where we had 11,300 interventions. And, again, this was a public consultation. And we're very proud of the fact that Canadians intervened. Now, we are crafting our AI strategy very transparently, which is why I'm here at committee. I'm very, very happy to talk about
Monsieur
it.
le ministre, c'est dangereux ce que vous faites aujourd'hui. Vous n'êtes pas capable de répondre par un simple oui ou non. Si les gens qui participent à une consultation publique, si on va être capable de les identifier pour s'assurer qu'il n'y ait pas d'ingérence étrangère pour venir influencer une politique aussi importante, comme vous dites, de l'intelligence artificielle. Est-ce que vous reconnaissez la gravité présentement de votre inaction et de votre irresponsabilité?
Again, merci pour la question. We are very, very transparent and open. We put together a public task force that was chosen by 28 people, very public, very transparent. We will be publishing absolutely their reports. Everyone can see them. We are in the middle of translating them. And this is as open as transparent. And we had a public portal, which is exactly what government should do. They should ask the public to have their opinions on important subjects like AI, and we're very
Donc, on
proud
va
of that.
savoir les noms de toutes les personnes qui ont contribué à la consultation publique, c'est ça?
Let me just, my deputy seems to want to answer, but we are very proud of the...
Sorry for interrupting.
Non-réponse,
Time
c'est
is
une
up for
réponse.
Mr.
Okay, we're
Blanchet.
very proud of the
Bianca,
transparency of our process.
We can come back in the second round. So with that, the first round ends. We will now start our second round of 5 minutes and 2.5 minutes. So, MP Ho, please go ahead. You will have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Minister, you previously served as a publisher of G0 Media, a media arm fully owned by Eurasia Group, which is a global political risk consultancy that sells geopolitical analysis to multinational companies and foreign governments. You also sat on the Eurasia Group Management Committee, which is its senior leadership body. Can you confirm that you held both of those roles from 2022 till 2025?
I was the publisher of G0 Media, and I was part of the senior management team of Eurasia Group.
So are you still involved in have you resigned from that role?
I resigned long before I ran for the election.
Do you still receive compensation in any way or own any ownership interests or royalties from Eurasia Group or G0 publisher?
No.
No? Okay. Well, so as a member of the management committee, you would have had privy to some information about the AI analyses and AI policy of the clients of the Eurasia Group or G0. So do you see an issue with your role as the Minister of Artificial Intelligence as some of those clients may be stakeholders in your role as Minister of Artificial Intelligence?
I'm very proud of the fact that I have long experience in the public sector. I was a small business owner, and I started a company, Shift Magazine, co-owned that as a small business owner. I'm proud of my experience working as a publisher of G0. Like any experience, I've learned a lot. I took away a lot of that experience, and I think it's very important.
Have you had information that was not public that from your experience at G0? Like information about your clients? G0's clients.
Excuse me. Point of order, Chair. I know I'm a substitute at this committee, but looking at the motion that is being debated, I fail to see the relevancy to the motion.
Thank you. It's not a point of order. Minister is here to talk about artificial intelligence. So please go ahead, MP Ho.
So go again. Have you ever had to recuse yourself for ethics reasons because of the information that you've had in your previous role in G0 Media? And as it relates to your work as Minister of Artificial Intelligence?
Again, no, I have not, and I'm very proud of the work that I did at G0 Media and doing geopolitical analysis.
Have you had any interactions with any present or former employees or associates or business partners at G0 or Eurasia Group ever since you became Minister of Artificial Intelligence?
Yes, I've had some friendly conversations with my former employees there. Obviously, they congratulated me when I got elected. But very friendly conversations, nothing business related.
Any members of of G0 or Eurasia include former Principal Secretary Gerald Butts, former Principal Secretary of Justin Trudeau, Gerald Butts?
He was a member and works at Eurasia Group. Yes.
So you've had conversations with Gerald Butts?
Yes.
Okay. Have any member of G0 tried to lobby you, or of Eurasia Group tried to lobby you, and directly or indirectly since then?
No.
But Gerald Butts is very involved in liberal circles, and you just said you have had conversations with him. So what kind of conversations would you have had with him?
One of the interests that I share with many people at Eurasia Group, I would say, and many people here, are geopolitics. And we discuss geopolitics. I discuss geopolitics with many people, what's happening around the world. This is not anything I have on any regular basis, but like you, pardon me, Chair, like many members here and honorable members, we have a fascination with geopolitics and the world-class work that many organizations do. And I read newspapers and I read
yeah. So what safeguards do you have in place, or do you even have any safeguards to make sure that the AI policy that you propose do not interact with your former employer, who actually you seem to have conversations with or interactions with since you left the firm?
I follow all the highest standards that the ethics commissioner and anyone else would have asked for me, and I follow all those standards, and I follow the rules exactly as I'm told to do, and exactly as I would expect any member to do.
So, how about the Prime Minister's interest in Brookfield? Do you have any safeguards that you consider to make sure that it doesn't enrich the Prime Minister?
Again, I follow all rules. That I have, my focus here, I will just say, is building a twofold: one, sovereign AI and AI for all, and my focus is on federal economic development in Ontario, and so those are really what I'm focusing on, and I know that everybody, I assume everybody follows the highest ethical standards.
Up, and we will now proceed to MP McKelvey for 5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Minister, for joining us today. Since you mentioned you like geopolitics and what's happening in the world, can you let us know how you're making sure that Canada's AI research ecosystem stays competitive internationally?
Thanks for the question, and I appreciate the honourable member's work always. Look, we all know that AI is a transformative technology, and that Canada has a long-term strategy, as again the first country to have that national strategy designed to keep our company and our country competitive. A couple things. The Pan-Canadian AI strategy, which was introduced back in 2017, has invested billions of dollars in Canada's ecosystem to make, and there are some key elements. Our CFAR AI chairs and our national AI institutes, again, I keep mentioning them, because they matter. They're world leading. Amy in Edmonton, Mila in Montreal, Vector in Toronto. But we have many centers. Waterloo's a center, Sherbrooke's a center. In Vancouver, we have an incredible cluster of remarkable innovation. But our CFAR AI chairs program, because this is the science and research, I just want to focus on that. We've appointed over 125 researchers, and they train about 250 graduate students and postdoc fellows every year. And that gives us this pipeline of innovation. And they go on not only to do more research, but to found companies that are transformative and create good jobs in here. Let me just give you a stat, because I think facts matter here. Our CFAR AI chairs rank third in terms of global impact. We trail only Google and the Max Planck Institute for Informatics. That means we produce papers 4.5 times more likely than the global average to appear in the top 1% of cited journals. That means, just so Canadians know this, that puts us ahead of Meta, ahead of MIT, ahead of Oxford, ahead of Stanford, and ahead of China. Like, these are significant leadership moments that Canadians should be proud of. And maybe we should tell our story more, but this is a remarkable what we've done. Our AI sovereign compute strategy, which we announced in Budget 2024, includes $2 billion and $925 million over 5 years in this budget to ensure that our businesses and researchers and innovators have access to large-scale secure compute. And let me just say one other thing that we've done. Again, Chair, sometimes Canadians aren't aware of how rich our ecosystem is. We have something called the Digital Research Alliance of Canada. And the Alliance has invested close to $300 million alone in trying to increase Canada's research compute capacity by 50%. And we, in the new year, Canada will be building an AI supercomputer for our researchers, which will put us in the top of the G7. This is an incredible program. We're working on it right now. And Canadians should be very proud that our program to build the kind of supercomputer that researchers need to solve the problems of tomorrow, right now, right here in Canada, that's happening. And so we have, again, quite a remarkable ecosystem that we've invested in, and making sure that that ecosystem not only stays competitive internationally, but is a leader internationally.
Thank you. And no, certainly I think we're punching above our weight. And so I love that you brought statistics to show that. What outcomes from the Pan-Canadian strategy, like what are the key deliverables or those key milestones or key successes that you think really justify like added investment in this area and continuing to go forward?
So the Pan-Canadian AI strategy has been absolutely successful. The reason we are renewing it is because the technology is moving so quickly, and we want to make sure that we're not only fostering innovation, but we're promoting economic growth, because we want good jobs and high-tech jobs to stay here in Canada, and we want the intellectual property, the innovation, to stay here. So, what are some key successes? The 3 national AI institutes are globally renowned. I've traveled the world. I was in the UAE, in that region. They know Mila. They know who Yoshua Bengio is because of his pioneering work. They know Jeffrey Hinton at Vector, and they know all the researchers there. They know what's Rich Sutton, the pioneer of machine learning, and Amy. I mean, these institutes, these are brand names in AI circles, and people should be very happy. And it helps us recruit top talent around the world. And again, the AI institutes, and again, Madam Chair.
You can wind up.
Okay. I know. I'll end on a fact, because you like statistics. Since 2021, the National AI Institutes have supported 1,800 companies in the private sector that has employed great Canadians, given good jobs, and contributed to our economy.
Thank you. We will now proceed to MP Blanchet-Jonca for 2.5 minutes.
Merci, Mme la Présidente. Monsieur le ministre, puisque vous dites que la confiance est essentielle, on va aller au cœur du problème. Comment les Canadiens puis les Québécois peuvent avoir confiance à votre stratégie d'intelligence artificielle quand 80 des données au pays sont hébergées aux États-Unis et donc accessibles via le Cloud Act? Comment vous pouvez garantir notre souveraineté numérique si l'intelligence artificielle canadienne dépend encore d'infrastructures américaines?
Merci pour la question. We know that sovereignty is not solitude, and there's a lot of data that will be stored in clouds, on AWS and other countries. That is happening for innovation. But that is exactly why we have a strategy to invest in Canadian infrastructure, now, from the data centers, from the research, from the companies, to make sure that we're moving towards a sovereign AI. Exactly right.
Je connais votre stratégie, en tout cas je l'observe, c'est que vous n'avez pas de plan. Donc on va y aller sur une autre question de substance, Monsieur le ministre. Selon nos analyses, les centres de données pourraient représenter jusqu'à 14 de la demande électrique du pays d'ici 2030. Le Québec possède déjà l'électricité la plus propre et la plus stable au pays. Pourquoi est-ce que votre stratégie ne reconnaît-elle pas explicitement que le Québec doit être le pilier énergétique du numérique?
Again, I'm very happy to talk about the strategy. We have not yet launched the renewed strategy. That is coming. So this is why I'm looking forward to presenting it to you when we launch it in the new year. So I don't want to answer a hypothetical, but you're right. Quebec has a fantastic clean energy infrastructure. We're working with the government of Quebec to make sure two things. One, that they have the digital infrastructure to thrive in this economy. And I will say, this is why Mila is located there, and Scale AI, our cluster, is also located there to build that ecosystem.
Alors, êtes-vous d'accord pour reconnaître que le Québec devrait être le pilier pour notamment mettre en place votre plan d'intelligence artificielle qui nécessite notamment beaucoup d'énergie?
Yeah, Quebec will be and Quebec is a very important part of the ecosystem. Quebec energy is very important to the idea of our clean energy grid that we want to build as a government. And Quebec will continue to be very vital to building the economy of the future because of its clean energy. By the way, because of they have great investments, La Caisse and other great
Expertise
Quebec
aussi, hein?
organizations are continuing. They have lots of expertise.
Up. We will now proceed to MPD Ritter for 5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you for coming today, Minister. You spoke proudly today about in 2017 you launched a national AI strategy, but we've actually had witnesses in this committee testify that nothing has been implemented from that launch. In fact, you've said yourself that we're doing a refreshed AI strategy now 9 years later by the time you guys actually table it, and we've already spent billions of dollars. Meanwhile, we remain second last place in the G7, 6th out of 7 in the G7 for our innovation. We don't need a strategy. We don't need a new mission statement, Minister. We need a strategy. So what's your strategy to commercialize and monetize Canadian innovation in Canada so it stays in Canada and it's a positive net return to the Canadian taxpayer, this new $2 billion investment in this budget?
I just want to say that thank you for the question. We have made tremendous progress. And again, we are 5th in the world right now in terms of AI publications.
According to the
Stanford's
Global Innovation
AI
Index, we're 6th, not 5th, we're 6th. But you say that we've made tremendous strides moving forward. Can you give me some examples of what those strides are? Tremendous impact, positive impact that we've had to our economy with the 2017 launch of your AI strategy?
Well, I point to the recent, and again, thank you for the question. I'm delighted to. The Deloitte study that was put out with Vector just pointed out that the AI sector alone has generated $100 billion to benefit Canada. That's a fantastic piece of innovation. This is the fastest. The digital sector is the
That's not what the experts are telling us, though, that this money isn't coming into Canada. In fact, the experts are telling us that we're losing our innovation. We have great research here. I have U of W in my region. We have many incubators in my region, Kitchener Centre, Canada's innovation capital.
Yes.
But we do not monetize and commercialize here in Canada. We're losing our IP. We're losing our data. It's going to the States or abroad. So what is your strategy to make sure that it stays here in Canada?
Again, thanks for the question. I also agree with you that we have tremendous research, and your region is one of them, and what's happening in
What's your
Kitchener-Waterloo.
strategy, Minister?
If I request to the opportunity to answer the question, please, one person at a time.
Again, let's not talk down the incredible work that's happened at our AI institutes.
I'm not talking down anything. I think we have great research. I'd like to know what your strategy is, please.
Again, I'm going to point to stats. The honourable member asked me for statistics. Again,
no,
we just
I asked you for your strategy.
Okay. The strategy will continue to invest in AI infrastructure. For example, our Compute Access Fund, $300 million that gives small, medium-sized businesses.
Behind the money. Behind the money. Money is money.
At a time, please. I would respect the members to please let the minister answer the question.
He's not answering. That's the problem. $2 billion of taxpayer dollar money is going in this next budget. We understand, yes, there's investment, but what's the strategy behind the investment?
Well, if I may, I'm delighted to talk about the strategy. One strategy is to make sure that we give compute access to small, medium-sized businesses who need it to innovate. And we are happy that when we opened that fund, it was oversubscribed, 1,300 companies. That's part of it. Building a supercompute facility is part of it. $700 million for that. Investing in with our sovereign compute fund, investing in champion companies, as we've done with companies like Cohere. Those are part of the strategy.
Is there any guardrails to ensure that the data in the IP from these investments remains here in Canada and we have a sovereign approach
it's
for these investments into
there are always guardrails to make sure that in any investment that the Canadian government makes, there's always guardrails in terms of making sure it's a Canadian company, or there's any guardrails against things like
and the IP staying
making sure that there's no headquarter changes, and that so those are always factors in determining what we invest in. But again, just going back to the strategy, one way to see results is the fact that, again, like an independent study from Deloitte says it's generating $100 billion. There's 800,000 people working.
That has anything to do with strategy. You're giving me some talking points here, and I'm asking you for, so I'm going to switch gears here, because what I've learned from this is I think effectively 9 years later we're starting over. But there's another problem. We don't have the grid capacity to lead AI globally. You have said yourself that we are global leaders in AI capacity, but the experts here in this committee have said that we don't have the grid capacity for these compute buildings. Who's lying to this
time is
committee?
up, MPD Raja. Time is up, Minister. We will come back in the next round. So we will now proceed to MP Deschamps-Terrien. Please go ahead. You will have 5 minutes.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Merci, Monsieur le ministre, d'être ici avec nous aujourd'hui. Comme vous le savez, l'intelligence artificielle transforme en profondeur les rapports sociaux, les activités de recherche, l'économie, ainsi que la prestation des services publics, y compris dans des secteurs qui sont essentiels à la vitalité des communautés francophones de partout au pays. Dans le cadre de notre stratégie nationale, quelles actions seront mises en place pour prévenir les biais linguistiques, notamment ceux liés aux données et aux connaissances, à la fois dans la conception, la mise en œuvre et l'optimisation des modèles en matière d'intelligence artificielle? Et comment, donc, est-ce qu'on va veiller à respecter nos obligations en vertu de la loi sur les langues officielles, notamment d'assurer l'égalité réelle de nos deux langues? Merci, Monsieur le ministre.
Merci pour la question. C'est une question très importante pour notre gouvernement et pour moi aussi. L'adoption de l'IA in Canada has to reflect our foundational principles of linguistic duality and bilingualism, ensuring that any type of tech progress that we have, and this is why we say AI for all, reinforces the equal status, l'égalitaire de français et anglais aussi. And that's why we're embedding bilingualism and culturally representative data as core governance rules. That's really important. We're ensuring that Canadian AI systems are trained, and again, I just don't want to get too technical, but the data sets that they train on have to be in both languages. And by the way, we're working on programs also for Indigenous languages because it's very important to have large data sets of Indigenous languages, and I've spoken to the Premier of Manitoba about this, looking for ways to make sure that not just French and English, très important, absolument, mais aussi la langue de les autochtones. And this is very important that we have large data sets there. So there's work to be done there for sure. But we have to understand our regional realities, and we have to reflect our cultural context so we have fair, trustworthy outcomes. By the one, and let me just say, because the Official Languages Act, government technology is always deployed and guaranteed to have that full equality and to adhere very strictly to the Official Languages Act to make sure that it's inclusive. Let me just give you one example from La Belle Province in Quebec. The Information and Communications Technology Council, the ICTC, and MILA have entered into a learning partnership to help Canadian students and workers build technical and ethical and governance skills to thrive in the AI economy. So making sure that we have equity, but absolument les deux langues officielles.
Merci, Monsieur le ministre. Comme député acadien, c'est une question qui est importante pour moi et aussi pour mes collègues du Québec et mes collègues francophones de partout au pays. Je vais changer un petit peu de sujet. Au Canada, nous disposons d'expertise de calibre mondial en matière d'intelligence artificielle. On a des chercheurs de grand talent. Et j'aimerais savoir comment nos investissements récents en intelligence artificielle appuient le développement du secteur de la recherche en la matière au pays et comment ces investissements vont permettre de répondre aux obstacles auxquels peuvent présentement faire face nos chercheurs canadiens. Merci.
Merci encore une fois pour la question. C'est une question aussi très importante parce que il faut que nous bâtir notre infrastructure pour la recherche. And we are building on that in this budget, as you know, and the honorable member would know, Madam Chair, that we have $925 million over 5 years to build large-scale sovereign AI infrastructure. That's on top of what we've been doing to make sure that we have public and private research and innovation. So we're really investing in that. We're also establishing a sovereign public compute facility to really work to make sure that our universities and our researchers, our applied AI research, not only have the compute power, but we're attracting talent that want that. And one of the things that is very important in that community is people, researchers will go to places that have access to that compute. And that's one of the magnets that Canada has. They want to go to places that have top talent, leadership, like our institutes, by the way, like the University of Waterloo, like the University of Sherbrooke in Université, at the very front forum, and many, McGill, U of T, University of British Columbia, across this country, University of Alberta. And so we make sure that we're supporting that. And again, I just remind, this last week, we invested another $42 million in what's called ScienceNet, which is the online forum where researchers across the country can
sorry
can
for
work
interrupting,
for
Minister, if you can
researchers
please wind
together.
up.
Yes, and that gives them the compute power that researchers across the country can use. Merci.
Okay, so we will now proceed to MP Baldinelli for 3.5 minutes, and we will have 3.5 minutes for MP Hogan, and then we will end the panel with 1.5 minutes for MP Blanchet-Jonca. So MP Baldinelli.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Minister. During your remarks, you talked about the need to want to operate, and Canadians expect a foundation of trust. Minister, you were invited to appear before the Ethics Committee, and a motion was passed in September to appear. You've had all fall and plenty of opportunities to go, but you keep avoiding it. In fact, I would suggest you're dodging it. Will you commit to appearing before the Ethics Committee before the Christmas break?
I am always happy to talk about AI, our sovereign strategy, and if we can find the time to do that in this incredible, I'm more than, this is why I'm delighted to be here today. I'm always delighted to share.
Well, Minister,
and
you were
questions
supposed to
about it.
appear. The committee requested a 2-hour appearance
Sorry
from
for
you today.
interrupting.
Unfortunately, you're only here for an hour. So I would suggest the Ethics Committee is meeting right now. If you're going to finish here in an hour, I would suggest that they would make time for you to appear if you'd like to take that extra hour. In fact, that you were supposed to appear here and denied that opportunity of a motion that was passed by this committee, Madam Chair.
Point of
and
order.
the minister is
Yes,
not
there's a
appearing
point of
for the
order.
full motion.
Stop the clock.
Chair,
MP Hogan.
Chair, if we're going to cite the motion, again, I will say there is nothing about these matters within the motion. It talks about recent advances in fundamental and applied research in the field, the needs and challenges of research centers, universities, and public institutes, the role of the federal government in promoting responsible AI research ecosystem, and mechanisms for ensuring diffusion, valorization, and protection of scientific discoveries. This is entirely out of order, the question from the other.
Rappel au règlement, Madame la Présidente.
I request the members to please keep the questions on the subject we have today. MP Mahal.
I just wanted to reply back, Madam Chair. The point of order is the scope of the questioning and Minister is fairly wide.
We are getting into debate. Like MP Blanchet-Jonca, you had a point of order?
Rappel au règlement, Mme la Présidente, je comprends que le collègue, M. Hogan, c'est la première fois qu'il vient ici au comité. Moi, j'en suis membre depuis janvier 2021. C'est la première fois. Je lui souhaite la bienvenue. Mais j'aimerais simplement lui rappeler que le lundi 24 novembre dernier, moi, j'ai déposé une motion.
Getting into debate.
Non, mais Mme la Présidente, simplement pour dire qu'on a demandé 2 heures au ministre Solomon. Et là, il est là 1 heure. Alors, lui, il dit le contraire. Donc, je tiens simplement à dire, voici les faits.
Okay. We will go to MP Baldinelli.
The notion of the foundation of trust. It's very hard to establish that trust, for example, Minister, when this government committed $400 million to Algoma with no job guarantees. $220 million was paid out to Stellantis, and they've indicated that they're not proceeding. $250 million you've committed through this sovereign fund to Cohere, and there's no guardrails through that MOU to ensure that $250 million of Canadian taxpayer money is going to support Canadian businesses. Can you see why Canadians might have some concerns in regards to this notion of a foundation of trust?
Thanks for the question. Again, I'm delighted to talk about Cohere. We have invested in Cohere, one of the 4 large language models.
Which first step was to hire an American company. When Canadian companies exist, how are we supposed to create that Canadian ecosystem when Cohere hires an American company that has ties with numerous American companies? And, oh, by the way, one of them has ties to Brookfield.
Again, let me just say, any definition of sovereignty, they're headquartered in Canada, their IP's
That
in
foundation
Canada,
of trust,
and they're trading
Minister.
in Canada.
Time.
Foundation
I would
of
request
trust.
the member to please allow the minister to answer.
Again, it's a great question. The member asked me about sovereignty. They're founded in Canada. They employ in Canada. Their IP resides in Canada.
CoreWeave
They're trading
is not.
around the world. This is a Canadian
CoreWeave is
company
not.
that we're happy to
Senator,
champion.
time, it will become very difficult for the interpreters to interpret. I would request members to please allow the minister to respond to the question they are asking.
Again, in your capacity as Minister of AI, would you have had the opportunity to discuss with the Prime Minister some of his ethics screens with regards to some of his holdings? And would you find it interesting to find some of those names that I've mentioned this afternoon are actually held by the Prime Minister?
My discussions are always about building an ecosystem.
Minister, it's about establishing that foundation of trust, the perception of conflict. That is a huge concern. The Privy Council Chair, Mr. Sabia, who's from St. Catharines, great Niagara boy, he divested himself of Brookfield Holdings because of the perception. Minister, you should be aware, 10 years ago, you lost your job
Time is up,
from CBC because of the perception of a conflict.
Thank you, MP
You should be
Baldinelli.
well
Time
aware
is
of
up.
this issue.
Thank you. And we will now proceed to MP Hogan for 3.5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks to the entire committee for me being here today, and thank you to the Minister. Minister, I want to focus a little bit on regional development of AI. Of course, I'm from Alberta. Alberta is one of the strongholds of artificial intelligence development in this country. And during a recent visit to Amy, you highlighted Canada's AI leadership, and you announced new funding for AI literacy and compute access. The budget also commits $1 billion for AI commute infrastructure investments, including $20 million for Amy in my home province of Alberta to expand compute capacity for researchers. And this is great. This is infrastructure that will help businesses seize opportunities from AI. It will create jobs, and it will create economic growth. But we need more of it. So how do regional hubs like Amy fit into the government's strategy to ensure access to sovereign compute resources? And what role are regional hubs going to play in scaling AI adoption nationally?
Again, thanks for the question. It's a great question, and it's a great opportunity to highlight what Amy does. And in some ways, I wish these were brand names. You're from Alberta, you'll know what the Alberta Machine Learning Institute's all about. This is incredible. This is where the lead, again, founded by Rich Sutton, who's a Turing Prize winner, but when you go to this institute, it is absolutely remarkable. They play a central role in our strategy. They are a hub for so much, not only to make sure that companies in Alberta, and there are remarkable AI companies creating jobs, solving remarkable issues in healthcare, in agriculture, in energy, and they need that compute capacity, and making compute accessible is part of that. Energy companies, for example, in Alberta are working with AMI researchers to reduce emissions and improve efficiency in oil and gas and clean hydrogen production. And we're investing in local ecosystems. And again, I'll go back to a remarkable visit I had there in AMI recently. And again, going back to a company like RL Core Tech. We talk a lot about clean water. And not only here in some regions of Canada, but around the world. And there is a classic company, an AMI researcher, using the investments we made, using that regional hub to develop a company, to raise money, to go from, to still teach the next generation of great minds, but also to build a company and employ people, and then export that company around the world. It is an absolute central to our strategy, and that's why we're continuing to invest in those hubs.
Thank you, Minister. And you're right, there are a lot of great AI successes in Alberta. There's a Calgary-based company, Hi-Fi, I want to highlight, uses fiber optics and AI for pipeline monitoring, can detect changes in temperature and flow and vibrations, which in turn makes pipelines safer to operate, makes sure people aren't digging where they're not supposed to be digging, and can tell if there's problems that are being developed. It's a growing area of knowledge and expertise for our country, and it's already creating massive economic developments. And as said, I want to kind of push on capturing economic and social benefits from these AI investments. The applications of AI are broad, and as I mentioned, they impact a lot of industries, including the energy sector, but also health, climate, defense, industry. So how will Canada's next AI strategy balance these priorities to ensure that investments maximize both economic growth and social benefits for Canada?
Quick 10-second answer.
We have everything from the AI-driven diagnostic tools at the University of Toronto Health Network. The Defence Industrial Strategy also will allow us to have dual-use technologies. And, Madam Chair, if I had time, I'd list a long list of great Canadian companies, of innovators and pioneers who are using this technology to employ people and drive innovation in the country.
We will end this panel with 1 minute with MP Blanchet-Jonca.
Monsieur le ministre, pouvez-vous vous engager aujourd'hui à ce que toute future législation sur l'intelligence artificielle inclue des protections spécifiques pour le droit d'auteur et pour la création en français au Québec? Oui ou non, c'est les choix de réponse.
The legislation that I'm preparing is privacy and data, and the Minister of Heritage is really the one who is going to be in charge of the copyright legislation. So I don't want to speak for that minister, but I certainly am working on legislation on privacy and data legislation, which I'm happier to stay in my lane and speak about that.
Mauvaise réponse, c'était pas dans le choix de réponse. Monsieur le ministre, plusieurs centaines d'experts, dont Yoshua Bengio, que vous avez été cité, avertissent que les modèles d'intelligence artificielle avancés pourraient aller jusqu'à menacer l'humanité. Où est-ce que vous tracez concrètement la ligne entre l'innovation, la protection du public, et quel type de modèle d'intelligence artificielle, selon vous, devrait être strictement encadré ou même interdit au Canada?
AI safety is
Quick
absolutely
10-second
critical,
answer.
and that's what our legislation will be about. But we have invested $50 million in the AI Safety Institute. Yoshua Bengio in Montreal is actually one of the leading thinkers on that, and we're working very closely with him. It's a great question.
Une réponse écrite, Madame la Présidente. Je ne suis pas vraiment satisfait de la longueur ou de l'explication. Ça ne me rassure pas.
Can you please repeat? There was a lag.
Réponse écrite, considérant le 10 secondes que vous avez permis au ministre pour répondre à ma question essentielle.
So if it would be possible, if you can send in a written response, we will circulate it to the members. With that, this panel comes to an end, and I really want, on behalf of all the members of this committee, Minister, I really want to thank you for your time and providing us important information about this study on artificial intelligence. And the meeting is suspended. We will begin in a few seconds for the next panel. meeting to order. I would like to welcome our witness from Department of Industry, Mark Shan, Associate Deputy Minister, Nipun Vats, Assistant Deputy Minister, Science and Research Sector. There will be no opening remarks, and we will directly go into our first round of questioning, and we will begin our first round of 6 minutes each with MP Ho. MP Ho, please go ahead. You will have 6 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thanks for being here, Deputy Ministers. So I'll get straight to it. So the Liberal government announced a $700 million sovereign AI compute fund last year, a fund that's explicitly advertised as sort of a 5-year effort to build out Canadian AI infrastructure. And earlier this year, the very first check that they wrote was for $240 million, representing more than a third of the entirety of the fund, and it went to Cohere. Can you confirm that?
I can confirm that, yes.
Yeah, and Cohere used that $240 million not to build Canadian compute, but to purchase the compute capacity from another company to help them build it out, called CoreWeave. Is that correct?
The nature of the investment under the Compute Challenge program to Cohere was to further their R&D efforts as it related to the build-out of their continued capacities. Right. That included the further articulation of their LLM capacity, which included data center operations.
Yeah, and that data center operations is sort of contracted to CoreWeave.
So CoreWeave was selected as the shell provider by Cohere as part of the R&D effort that we are supporting.
And CoreWeave is a U.S.-based company, headquartered in the United States and based in the United States. So in a committee last week, multiple Canadian data center operators testified that they have existing capabilities and scalable facilities that can expand quickly. So, are you comfortable that that Cohere decided to pick CoreWeave, a U.S.-based company, over that of other Canadian competitors?
Merci, Madame la Présidente, pour la question. I want to put our overall investment strategy in context. So the $2 billion as part of the 2024 envelope for building digital infrastructure in Canada had a number of component parts. $300 million was dedicated towards the Compute Access Fund. That is enabling small and medium-sized enterprises to be able to be incentivized to continue their AI journey. That provides incentivized and subsidized compute loads that are favored towards compute facilities that are operated by Canadians. That $300 million is in the process of being finally articulated, and we'll have announcements in the new year. $700 million was for Compute Challenge, and there's two archetypal kind of component recipients of that. One is someone with an R&D capacity that is actually utilizing sufficient numbers and volumes of data that they may themselves be able to be a proponent. And the other archetypal client is a mid-tier data center operator, provider, or otherwise who's going to be incentivized to be able to create further sovereign alternatives.
I know you can't control specifically, directly. You don't make the decisions at Cohere. I understand. You're government officials. So did the government require Cohere to purchase the compute from a Canadian company, or were there any strings attached that they can just pick whichever bid that they please?
The overall envelope of Compute Challenge continues the significant effort that goes into all of our contribution agreements as it relates to innovation and related programming.
In the contribution agreement, was there any requirement, to your knowledge, that would require a purchase from a Canadian supplier?
The contribution agreement centers around the R&D project of Cohere, and Cohere's R&D is what we are supporting through the Compute Challenge program.
But Cohere decides how to build out that R&D, so there's no strings attached, essentially, or else you would have said yes. So back in the summer, Cohere signed an MOU with the federal government to so-called transform the federal public service delivery, which would inevitably give Cohere access to sensitive government data. So knowing that, do you see any issue with outsourcing the AI infrastructure to CoreWeave, a U.S. company?
So I think it's really important that we continue to note that the entity in question is a Canadian entity, subject to Canadian law, and continuing to build out Canadian IP and Canadian R&D capacity. Much like many of the operational environments that are privy to the infrastructure providers to a number of our core industries, There are lots and lots of dimensions of what the relationship is with their operator, but what we care about is that Cohere remains Canadian.
I understand, and you're following the sort of the four corners of the contribution agreement. But are you confident that this data center operator CoreWeave, which is operating data center in Ontario for Cohere, that it's not subject to U.S. government jurisdiction, specifically the U.S. Cloud Act?
So a few things. Cohere is in the possession of the data, and Cohere is subject to our laws as it relates to the protection and continued holding of.
CoreWeave is subject to U.S. laws, and CoreWeave would have access
the
to
operator
the
of the LLM in question is Cohere.
Okay, but we have CoreWeave as a data center operator, and CoreWeave is a U.S.-based company and subject to the U.S. Cloud Act. So do you think this agreement sort of create long-term dependence on U.S. suppliers anyway?
So, again, I'll try to be brief. To zoom out to the overall intent. So, the intent of our $2 billion sovereign compute envelope includes the creation of continued supports for sovereign alternatives and the build-out of sovereign infrastructure in this country. It's got a number of component parts, one for the research sector, one for small and medium-sized enterprises.
How can we say it's sovereign when a key piece of that supply chain is owned and operated by a U.S. company?
A Canadian company is being supported in their R&D efforts to build out their own company here in Canada with Canadian jobs and Canadian IP and continuing to serve markets around the world.
I understand the jobs and IP part, but I'm talking about the data centers that's subject to U.S. law. So does that create a cause for concern for Canadians because they'll have access to data?
Up MP Ho, you can come back in the second round. Now we will proceed to MP Deschamps-Charia for 6 minutes. Please go ahead.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Donc, à travers nos budgets, on fait des investissements importants en matière de recherche appliquée et fondamentale au sujet de l'intelligence artificielle. J'aimerais savoir que fait notre gouvernement pour veiller à assurer un financement en recherche équitable entre les différentes régions au pays et entre nos différents établissements.
Merci. Le budget a donné plus d'1 milliard de dollars pour attracter le talent au Canada dans toutes les régions du Canada. Et c'est diffusé par les agences et les fonds de recherche ici au Canada qui a un mandat d'assurer que toutes les institutions sont équitables d'adresser et accéder ces fonds. C'est vraiment une fondation, notamment dans notre approche de recherche globalement, on utilise les fonds pour accroître les capacités et les fonds de recherche dans tous les pays, dans toutes les institutions, incluant les institutions francophones.
Merci. Et donc, notre stratégie nous positionne le Canada comme un leader mondial en matière d'intelligence artificielle. Et nous devons avoir les infrastructures, les bonnes infrastructures en place. Je pense à des infrastructures pour assurer une connectivité à haute vitesse, pour un partage sécurisé de données, pour des infrastructures qui favorisent la collaboration. Donc, pouvez-vous nous parler un petit peu de quel est l'état de nos infrastructures au pays et comment les investissements qu'on fait à travers le budget 2025 vont permettre de renforcer nos infrastructures et vraiment être un leader mondial en la matière?
Oui, merci pour la question, Madame la Présidente. C'est important de noter, comme j'avais dit, le budget global pour bâtir une infrastructure souveraine au Canada, incluant en grande partie pour les universités, les chercheurs et les instituts. Ça, c'est la troisième partie de notre stratégie. Et ça, c'est le budget qui sont augmentés dans le budget 2025. Le budget 2025 a donné le gouvernement la possibilité de continuer avec le processus d'établir un supercomputer au Canada pour servir tous les besoins des chercheurs au Canada et d'assurer que les chercheurs ont un accès aux intelligences artificielles. Et ce n'est pas un accès dans le mot simple, c'est vraiment un accès plus profond parce que ça inclut aussi un accès aux services pour vraiment maturer son données, maturer son capacité de vraiment utiliser l'intelligence artificielle et aussi d'assurer qu'il y a une prioritisation de les projets dans les centres de données que nous bâtirons.
And thank you. And considering on the fact that Canada is a global leader on AI, I would like to know how is Canada advancing responsible AI innovation and governance on the international scene, and what steps are being taken to align Canada AI research with global standards?
Thanks so much for the question, Madam Chair. Canada's been at the heart of the continuation of ethical, responsible, and trustworthy AI for as long as longer than we've had an AI strategy. When the Pan-Canadian AI strategy was introduced in 2017, so was the Montreal Declaration on Responsible AI. It was why in Canada's last G7 presidency, not this one, Canada was the first to put artificial intelligence on the international table and helped create the Global Partnership on Artificial Intelligence, first in our G7 year and then finalized in the G7 year of France the year thereafter. Canada was also one of the earliest contributors to the AI Safety Network and is a fundamental partner globally, both in the G7 on the Hiroshima AI process, which is establishing global norms around codes of conduct and responsible use, but also on the AI safety side, where we're looking at evaluation techniques and mechanisms to ensure that frontier models are actually being tested and assured for Canadian safety and security alongside those of our global peers. And so I think those are all efforts by which Canada is positioning itself to ensure that responsible, trustworthy AI is a hallmark of our contribution and that we stay interoperable with our global peers and push the overall international agenda towards a more safe and secure and trustworthy iteration of artificial intelligence.
Merci, puis ça m'amène donc vous parlez des standards éthiques élevés que nous avons au Canada, nos standards de renommée internationale. Nous avons un code de conduite volontaire visant un développement et une gestion responsable des systèmes d'intelligence artificielle générée avancée. So I just would like to know how this voluntary code of conduct make sure that we have a responsible AI research ecosystem in Canada. I just would like to hear your views on it, and if you have any data regarding this code of conduct, like its impact on why we adopt it.
Oui, merci. Le code de conduite pour les entreprises qui utilisent l'intelligence artificielle générative était une initiative volontaire par les organisations de vraiment assurer les Canadiens et Canadiennes qui utilisent l'intelligence artificielle dans une manière responsable et éthique. Il y a plus de 50 organisations et entreprises qui ont signé le code de conduite maintenant, qui inclut les grandes entreprises, mais aussi les petites et moyennes, et aussi les organisations industrielles qui ont contribué au développement de le code. Le code vraiment signifie au Canada qu'il y a un investissement par les entreprises dans le processus de développer son intelligence artificielle, d'adopter une IA plus saine, plus responsable et de gérer la confiance des Canadiens. Et je pense qu'il y a une occasion de vraiment accroître le nombre des organisations et entreprises qui ont signé le code. Et c'est une initiative très forte dans le développement des standards pour les entreprises de vraiment assurer les Canadiens de la manière de son utilisation de l'IA.
Thank you. We will now proceed to MP Blanchet-Jonca for 6 minutes. Please go ahead.
Monsieur Vatt, selon le rapport L'État de la science, la technologie et l'innovation au Canada 2025, commandé par votre ministère, le Québec réalise environ 25 % de toute la recherche et développement canadienne. Est-ce que vous pouvez nous confirmer que le Québec reçoit une part équivalente du financement fédéral, oui ou non?
I don't have those numbers on hand.
C'est possible de nous avoir les données, les 25 dernières années, ventilées par province, et notamment d'avoir le soutien fédéral?
Pour les 25 dernières années.
S'il vous plaît. Merci beaucoup. Monsieur Vatt, le rapport L'État de la science, la technologie et l'innovation au Canada 2025, commandé par votre ministère, établit 3 faits. Le Canada traverse une crise d'innovation, le Québec est l'un des rares territoires qui maintient une performance scientifique forte et le pays souffre d'un sous-investissement chronique en recherche. Comment est-ce que vous expliquez que malgré ce constat, il n'existe aucun plan fédéral pour soutenir spécifiquement l'effort du Québec, qui porte une part majeure de la recherche canadienne, ni pour corriger le retard structurel du Canada en innovation? Alors, pourquoi est-ce que vous ignorez ce que votre propre rapport identifie comme essentiel à la performance scientifique au pays?
Well, I think I would say that, we have, when we invest in science and innovation, we invest in it based on excellence, right? And so our research granting agencies funding, our innovation programming, they go to researchers and companies that demonstrate excellence. That is very true in Quebec. In this context for AI, we have very large investments in Mila. We have Ivado, which has received very large federal grants. We collaborate very closely with the universities in the province. And the fact that Quebec is very strong in the innovation indicators is partly a function of very strong collaboration between the Quebec government and the Canadian government. There are other factors involved. I mean, I think that, there are very strong ecosystems in Montreal, in Sherbrooke, in Quebec City that are also quite essential, and strong collaboration between research organizations within the province. Those are things that are not within our control, but I think are recognized in terms of the kinds of collaborations that we have to promote innovation. In Quebec, it's true in other parts of the country as well.
Monsieur Vatz, le rapport du comité consultatif sur le système fédéral de soutien à la recherche, commandé encore une fois par votre gouvernement et déposé en mars 2023, recommandait d'augmenter le financement de base de la recherche, d'améliorer les conditions de la relève, de moderniser les laboratoires fédéraux et aussi de renforcer la coordination entre les 3 organismes subventionnaires. Or, dans le budget 2025, aucune de ces recommandations centrales n'a été appliquée. Comment est-ce que vous expliquez cette contradiction entre les conclusions du rapport Bouchard et un budget qui n'en met aucune en œuvre? Est-ce que votre ministère a l'intention d'agir ou ce rapport a-t-il été mis de côté sur une tablette?
Well, I don't think I would agree with the comment that Budget 25 did not respond to some of the recommendations. I think before we go to Budget 2025, I think we need to recognize Budget 2024. Budget 2024 had significant increases in the base budgets of the granting councils over a number of years.
On parle de 2025, M. Vatz.
Well, I think
bâtir un Canada fort.
Well, the investments that we make are not over one-year periods, though. They're multi-year investments. The investments in research that were made in Budget 2024 were over 5 years, increasing. There was also, in this budget, as you know, there's $1.7 billion, which was for attracting top talent to Canada. Now, that top talent coming to Canada means that you're building an ecosystem that trains a lot of Canadians, a lot of research students.
Permettez-moi de poursuivre, M. Vatz. Dans son communiqué sur le budget 2025, l'ACFAS, l'Association francophone pour le savoir, affirme qu'il est impossible de bâtir un Canada fort en sciences si la recherche en français continue d'être ignorée et sous-financée. Pourquoi la langue officielle du Québec ne figure-t-elle nulle part dans les priorités scientifiques du dernier budget? Et surtout, pourquoi votre ministère ignore-t-il la science en français et les enjeux qui y sont directement liés?
I don't know if I would agree with that last statement. I think, first of all, the approach to assessing research funding ensures that Francophone applicants have an equal opportunity to apply and to be assessed in the official language of their choice. With respect to la science en français, as you know, there's a comité consultatif which has been doing its work to provide recommendations to the government. We anticipate those recommendations to come next year, and that will provide further insights into what can be done to address issues with respect to French.
Monsieur Vatz, le fédéral ne collecte aucun indicateur permettant de vérifier si les projets soumis en français reçoivent un traitement équitable. Comment est-ce que vous pouvez nous garantir qu'il n'existe pas un biais systémique si vous ne mesurez même pas l'équité linguistique?
I do believe that in past presentations to the committee, there have been statistics provided by the granting councils in terms of the number of applications that are provided in French and in terms of the success rate.
Ce que je viens de vous dire, ça vient des mots de la conseillère scientifique en chef dans ses rapports. Je vous invite à en prendre connaissance, Monsieur le sous-ministre. Pourquoi les organismes fédéraux n'enregistrent-ils toujours pas la langue de leur soumission de travail ou de publication? Comment on peut corriger un problème que le ministère refuse de mesurer?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Oui, donc il n'y a pas de données linguistiques. Il y a une invisibilisation du français. Les organismes fédéraux, donc, n'enregistrent pas la langue de soumission de travail ou de publication. Alors, comment voulez-vous qu'on mesure s'il y a une iniquité si votre propre gouvernement, votre ministère, en fait même pas l'enregistrement de ces données-là?
Je dirais que ce n'est pas nous qui sont vraiment responsables pour les subventions pour les chercheurs. C'est surtout les conseils de subventions qui sont responsables. Et ils ont des données. Je suis presque certain qu'ils ont présenté quelques données ici au comité dans le passé.
La nouvelle loi sur les langues officielles exige un bilinguisme réel. Comment cette obligation peut-elle être respectée si aucune donnée linguistique n'est collectée lors de l'évaluation des projets?
This is all sort of predicated on the same basic question. Like, is there data that gives you a sense of the use of French and the success of actually conducting research and being funded in French? As I've said, there are some base data points on this. We expect that there will be additional information provided by the committee that is providing input to the government on science and French. And if there are...
Je vais vous donner l'occasion de répondre avec une réponse écrite plus détaillée. Je pense que ça sera plus simple pour nous pour comprendre.
Sorry for interrupting. Time is up for MP Blanchet-Juncker. Thank you. We will now proceed to MP Baldinelli for 5 minutes for our second round.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I quickly want to go to a matter which I raised on Monday, both verbally, and then I tabled a notice of motion with regards to the hearings that we held on Monday. And my request, and I put it in the motion, that we extend this AI study by one meeting to re-invite all those witnesses from December 1st. So I'll read it into the record, that the Standing Committee on Science and Research extend its study on artificial intelligence by one meeting, and that the committee re-invite all witnesses who were scheduled to appear on Monday, December 1st, 2025.
We have a motion on the floor, so we'll have a debate. Yes.
Thank you.
MP Deschamps-Terrier.
Can you just suspend for a few seconds to take knowledge of the motions?
Okay. I will suspend the meeting for a few minutes so that members can look at the motion. Thank you. meeting to order. MP Baldinelli has tabled a motion, so we will have to deal with that motion before we can proceed further. Any debate? MP McKelvey.
Madam Chair, I am worried that we're not going to be able to get the witnesses here on time, but I'm also mindful that we want to do drafting instructions before the holidays so that the analysts can prepare their work and so that we can get the feedback that we've heard from the witnesses that have appeared in front of us as well as from the minister into the record. And then we can start to draft some instructions so that we can inform very important policy on AI in our country. So I have a lot of concerns about this motion and trying to ram this in and really at the expense of those drafting instructions, because it would be really nice to complete the report before the holidays and to see that happen. So I think we've heard some really great feedback, in particular today, from the minister about the engagement that he's been doing with Canadians and those 28 researchers. Additionally, many different companies have appeared before the committee over the last few weeks that were great. We've also had the opportunity to follow up with these witnesses through written questions, and I know some of them will be submitting some additional written feedback. So I'm not sure that we want to ram this in at the expense of drafting instructions and losing that meeting where we can plan out what we're going to do next for artificial intelligence and get our amazing analysts working. So I'm really concerned by that.
MP Baldinelli on the line, just want to clarify. After today's meeting, we are left with two meetings, so that all the members know. Monday, December 8th, we will continue our current study on AI. That's what the plan is. Have those witnesses been scheduled?
The notice of meeting, yes. Notice of meeting is already published.
The list of meeting has been published. So we have the witnesses. Wednesday, what I was planning to do was, as it will be our last meeting before the holidays, to give drafting instructions to the analyst for the draft report on the impact of the criteria for awarding federal funding on research excellence in Canada. And the AMR. And the AMR, both. So that during the winter break, the analyst can work, and once we come back, we can have the reports so that we can report them back to the House. So that was the plan was. So MP Baldinelli.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to my colleague for comments. There's no intention to kind of ram this through. That's why I've not placed a date here for their appearance. If the clerk is able to schedule these in the new year, I'd be fine with that happening. I mean, I understand that the chair and the analysts have prepared the summary of evidence for two studies. I mean, these are studies that we've taken a long time ago, and I would suggest, and I agree, let's get to those summary of evidence meetings and have those on Wednesday. And when we return in the new year, we can have a meeting when we can get. My concern, my only hope is that we can get all those members who were those witnesses that were supposed to be there on December 1st to all be together again on a subsequent date that we can schedule. That's my hope, and I mean, I'm not looking to rush anything. And so, again, we could do that in the new year, and we can stay with the chair's schedule. Hearings on Monday, and then we can do summary of evidence for two reports on the Wednesday.
Thank you, MP Baldinelli. Before I go to the next MPs on the list, just want to clarify that earlier, in order to get those witnesses, it took some time to schedule. So really, we cannot push them to come next week. Everyone has busy, so we should keep that in mind. I have MP Rana, and then MP Deschamps-Theriault, and then MP Hogan.
Thank you,
MP
Madam
Rana.
Chair. Yeah, as my colleague already mentioned, that 6 of our witnesses are already in a line, and everybody has to come and for their witnesses, and we don't have enough time. Also, Minister is busy right now with the G7, and I would definitely ask you to keep this one in next month, February.
Thank you.
Okay. MP Deschamps-Ontario.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Moi aussi, je me questionne par rapport à la motion parce il y a déjà eu, je n'étais pas là, je suis un nouveau membre au comité, mais je sais qu'il y a eu plusieurs témoignages, plusieurs témoins qui sont venus partager leur expertise. On attend un rapport qui serait plaisant qu'on puisse, que ce rapport-là, la rédaction soit entamée durant le temps des fêtes pour qu'après, on puisse soumettre des recommandations à la Chambre. Parce que la question de développer un écosystème favorable à l'intelligence artificielle, c'est une question d'actualité. Le Canada, on se présente déjà comme un leader mondial en matière d'intelligence artificielle, et c'est le cas. Et à travers les investissements qu'on fait, mais on va être capable de encore davantage développer la recherche, davantage développer nos infrastructures. Et ces choses-là se font maintenant. Ce n'est pas dans 6 mois, dans 1 an que ça se passe. C'est maintenant qu'on est en train de revoir la stratégie nationale en matière d'intelligence artificielle. C'est maintenant qu'on investit dans nos infrastructures, dans nos superordinateurs, qu'on réfléchit à des façons d'encore mieux appuyer la recherche en matière d'intelligence artificielle. Et je pense que les recommandations qui vont sortir de ce comité vont être hyper pertinentes pour nous aider à développer notre stratégie, pour nous aider à s'assurer que les investissements répondent réellement aux besoins du secteur. Donc, moi, j'ai des inquiétudes par rapport à une motion qui viendrait retarder le dépôt de nos recommandations à la Chambre des communes. Et quand on regarde le budget 2025, bien, on le sait, l'intelligence artificielle, c'est quelque chose qui a le potentiel, ça le fait déjà, de transformer profondément nos rapports sociaux, l'économie, la façon qu'on délivre les services publics. Ça va avoir un impact dans le secteur de l'éducation, de la santé, dans les milieux culturels, dans toute une diversité de secteurs. Et ces impacts-là, c'est important de bien les comprendre. On a des témoins qui sont venus nous partager leurs perspectives, leurs points sur ces différents impacts sur une multitude de secteurs. Puis moi, je pense que pourquoi est-ce qu'on ne voudrait pas que nos collègues à la Chambre des communes puissent en bénéficier le plus rapidement possible? Moi, c'est une inquiétude sincère que j'ai à ce sujet-là. Et si on regarde le budget 2025, bien, on consacre près de 1 milliard pour soutenir l'intelligence artificielle canadienne. Ça, c'est en plus de tout ce qui a été fait avant. Parce que j'aime le rappeler, le Canada, on a été un des premiers pays au monde à mettre en place une stratégie en matière d'intelligence artificielle financée. Donc ça a été fait en 2017 déjà. Donc, on avait 125 millions en 2017. Il y a 144 millions qui avaient suivi en 2021. Ces stratégies-là visaient plusieurs piliers, notamment d'attirer et de retenir des chercheurs de calibre mondial en intelligence artificielle. Et cet élément-là est toujours d'actualité aujourd'hui parce que dans le budget de 2025, on investit plus de 1,7 milliard pour attirer des talents de calibre mondial au Canada dans nos différentes universités. Et à travers ces investissements-là, bien, j'espère voir des talents en matière d'intelligence artificielle. Déjà, le Canada, on a des talents de calibre mondial dans plusieurs de nos universités. Il y a de ces gens-là qui sont venus témoigner, des gens qui connaissent le secteur, qui font la fierté de notre pays. Et on va déployer bientôt une stratégie de recrutement international pour attirer des talents. Donc, en soi, moi, quand je vois les investissements qu'on fait et que c'était un des piliers de notre stratégie depuis 2017 en matière d'intelligence artificielle, mais je pense que les recommandations, encore une fois, vont être pertinentes et on ne peut pas se permettre de retarder donc la publication de nos travaux à ce sujet-là. On parlait aussi dans nos différentes stratégies de 2021, avec les investissements qui ont été faits de 2017 à 2021, de soutenir les instituts nationaux en matière d'intelligence artificielle, de favoriser la commercialisation et l'adoption de l'intelligence artificielle dans tous les secteurs, que ce soit en éducation, dans le secteur manufacturier, secteur culturel, économie. Et là, je vais faire aussi une parenthèse parce que je pense qu'au niveau du budget, notre budget en 2025, on veut avoir un Canada fort. Et ça passe par une économie forte. Notre gouvernement travaille depuis le jour 1 à renforcer et à rendre l'économie canadienne plus résiliente. Il faut comprendre que l'intelligence artificielle, c'est un facteur qu'il faut prendre en considération dans nos efforts parce qu'en soi, ça transforme notre économie, ça transforme nos secteurs comme le secteur manufacturier, ça va changer le monde du travail. Donc, dans nos efforts qu'on fait comme gouvernement pour renforcer l'économie canadienne, bien, il faut prendre en considération l'impact de l'intelligence artificielle. Et c'est certain que notre stratégie nationale en matière d'intelligence artificielle va pouvoir adresser des questions comme ça. Et moi, j'ai hâte de voir les recommandations parce que on n'évolue pas en vase clos en soi. Je veux dire, il faut regarder nos différents travaux qu'on fait en intelligence artificielle. Bien, ça permet d'appuyer le renforcement de notre économie. Et comme je l'ai déjà mentionné, c'est des choses qui se passent dès maintenant. Donc, en soi, moi, une motion comme celle du collègue, elle peut être bien fondée, mais c'est, comme tu l'as dit, c'est compliqué à organiser des rendez-vous avec les témoins à faible préavis. Donc, ça risque d'arriver seulement au retour des fêtes. Lorsque ces témoignages-là sont entendus, on ne sait quand au retour des fêtes. Bien, par la suite, il faut prendre ces témoignages-là en consideration. Il y a le temps pour la rédaction du rapport. Donc, c'est encore des délais et des délais qu'on veut éviter.
Yes. If I can have a second, it seems with the list that this debate will continue if I have the consent of the members to allow the witnesses to leave, because I don't want their time to be wasted.
This is a rather innocuous and easy motion to adopt.
So
I mean,
this debate is
I'm
going to
baffled,
continue.
Gab, by why my colleagues are
Sorry,
delaying such a motion.
MP Deschamps-Terrier has the floor. I just wanted to ask for the witnesses. If there is no consent, MP Deschamps-Terrier.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. C'est désolé à nos témoins, je m'en excuse. J'aurais aimé vraiment entendre davantage vos témoignages, mais c'est que là, on a une motion devant nous, comme que je l'ai dit, qui risque de retarder la publication de nos travaux. Et je suis certain que vous comprenez l'importance, notamment de notre stratégie nationale en matière d'intelligence artificielle et comment c'est important pour informer la Chambre de quelles recommandations, donc les experts qu'on a entendus, les gens qui connaissent le milieu, les commentaires qu'ils nous ont faits. On va baser des recommandations sur ce sujet-là. Et je suis certain que vous comprenez donc l'importance de s'assurer que ces recommandations là viennent plus tôt que tard. Donc, vous m'excuserez qu'on ne puisse pas continuer à vous poser des questions pour le moment. Puis, à travers le budget du gouvernement fédéral, il faut savoir qu'en plus des fonds qui sont spécifiques pour l'intelligence artificielle, bien, notre gouvernement, on finance aussi de la recherche en intelligence artificielle par différentes subventions, que ce soit à travers le CRSNG, les IRSC, le CRSH, le Fonds d'excellence en recherche à Projet Canada, ainsi que par différents autres programmes scientifiques fédéraux ciblés, en plus des contributions des partenaires de la province.
Oui, Madame la Présidente, juste rappeler aux collègues, là, ça ne me dérange pas, il est en train de nous faire perdre du temps, surtout avec 12 sous-ministres. J'aimerais ça lui rappeler le salaire qu'ils sont payés, ces gens-là. On est en train de débattre d'une motion concernant la prolongation de gens...
c'est juste not a point of order. It's not a point of order.
C'est hors sujet, Madame la Présidente. C'est hors sujet.
Non, si je pourrais préciser.
MP Deschamps-Terrier has the floor. He's speaking on the motion which has been brought by MP Baldonelli. We have our debate, and we have to continue until this debate collapses. MP Deschamps-Terrier.
Merci. Et en fait, malheureusement, c'est pas de notre côté qu'on a déposé une motion parce qu'en soi, moi, j'étais très intéressé à entendre les propos de des sous-ministres qui sont ici pour nous informer. J'avais hâte d'entendre davantage de questions. J'avais moi-même d'autres questions, puis mes collègues en avaient plusieurs de près. Je suis certain que les collègues de l'opposition en avaient aussi. Et ça aurait été intéressant de les entendre. Mais malheureusement, on a un collègue qui a décidé de déposer une motion pendant ce débat-là. Donc, en soi, en déposant une motion, c'était évident qu'il allait avoir un débat, parce qu'en soi, quand il y a une motion démocratiquement comme élu, on peut commenter. Et là, pour revenir au point, qu'est-ce qui est le lien avec la motion? C'est en soi... cette motion-là aurait pour effet de retarder la fin de nos travaux sur l'étude de l'intelligence artificielle. Donc, qu'est-ce que j'essaie de faire tout de suite? C'est d'expliquer les différents points. Pourquoi c'est important que nos recommandations arrivent plus tôt que tard à la Chambre des communes et à travers tous les investissements qu'on fait dans le budget fédéral, mais ces recommandations-là qu'on va faire vont pouvoir aider à éclairer la direction de notre gouvernement sur une diversité de sujets. Et le lien que je fais, donc, c'est que je veux vraiment, si on vote en faveur de la motion, qu'on comprenne les impacts potentiels que ça pourrait avoir. Donc, c'est pour ça que je fais ce lien-là. Et si vous me permettez de continuer, donc j'étais en train de parler de tous les investissements qu'on fait en matière de recherche au Canada. Et ces investissements-là peuvent aussi avoir un impact sur l'intelligence artificielle. Et je crois que ça va être intéressant, les recommandations qu'on va faire pour nos instituts de recherche, pour les différents départements qui sont impliqués. Quelles recommandations on va faire et comment est-ce que ça peut vraiment être adapté à bien répondre à nos besoins en matière d'intelligence artificielle. Et l'année dernière, en 2024, le gouvernement a lancé la stratégie canadienne de calcul souverain dotée de 2 milliards de dollars qui va réaliser des investissements stratégiques dans l'infrastructure infrastructures pour s'assurer que les innovateurs, les entreprises et les chercheurs canadiens disposent de la capacité de calcul dont ils ont besoin. C'est hyper important parce que si on veut demeurer un leader mondial en matière d'intelligence artificielle, il faut s'assurer d'avoir les infrastructures qu'on a besoin. Tout à l'heure, je l'ai abordé dans mon échange avec le ministre. On pense à des infrastructures pour la connectivité, une haute connectivité, d'avoir aussi des systèmes de protection élevés pour protéger les données, d'avoir des infrastructures nécessaires à la collaboration. Donc, en soi, dans le budget 2025, on fait ces investissements-là pour s'assurer qu'on ait les infrastructures nécessaires pour demeurer un leader mondial à l'échelle du monde en matière d'intelligence artificielle. Et je suis certain qu'à travers les recommandations qui sont offertes dans l'étude, bien, ça va contribuer...
I don't know how,
MPD Reader.
I don't know how current research funding in the budget it has anything to do
Point
with
of
this
order.
motion.
It's not a point of
He's
order.
not on topic. It has relevance, Chair.
He's speaking
it has
on the
nothing
motion.
to do with this motion. He's talking about
I
money
would
in the
request the
budget.
member to please
Has
be
nothing to do with this motion.
relevant to the motion we have. And please.
Oui, bien merci. Bien, en fait, la motion qu'on a devant nous, c'est que le Comité permanent des sciences et de la recherche prolonge d'une séance son étude sur l'intelligence artificielle et que le comité invite à nouveau tous les témoins qui devaient comparaître le lundi 1er décembre 2025. Je l'ai mentionné, cette motion-là, avant de voter dessus, il faut bien comprendre ses impacts potentiels. On est dans le débat sur la motion. Et je pense comprendre les impacts potentiels d'une motion, bien, ça fait partie du débat. Et en soi, avec la conséquence directe de cette motion-là, ce serait de retarder la publication de notre rapport. Parce que dans les rapports, on fait des recommandations qui peuvent être utiles aux collègues à la Chambre. Parce que tout le travail qu'on fait en comité à la Chambre des communes, c'est du travail de fond qui permet d'améliorer nos politiques publiques. Et qu'est-ce que j'essaie d'expliquer ou d'exposer à travers mes différents exemples aujourd'hui? C'est l'importance de nos recommandations pour être en mesure d'éclairer différentes politiques publiques qui sont mises en œuvre à l'heure actuelle ou différents investissements qu'on va faire en matière d'intelligence artificielle. Et moi, qu'est-ce que je crains? C'est que si on adopte la motion, bien, c'est que ça fait en sorte que les témoins, on ne peut pas les inviter la semaine prochaine s'ils ne sont pas disponibles. Ça va peut-être nous forcer à devoir remettre la fin de l'étude à l'hiver, donc après dans la nouvelle année en 2026. Et l'enjeu qu'il y a avec ça, bien, c'est que ça fait en sorte que ça retarde la publication de notre rapport, les propositions, les recommandations qu'on va faire qui vont permettre d'éclairer les travaux de la Chambre au sujet de l'intelligence artificielle. Et c'est pour ça que je passe à travers différents exemples qui sont en lien avec l'intelligence artificielle qu'on retrouve dans le budget et qu'est-ce qui seraient les impacts potentiels sur le fait de retarder la publication de notre rapport. Donc, si vous me permettez de continuer, parce que dans le budget 2025, on a consacré plus de 1 milliard pour soutenir l'intelligence artificielle canadienne. Je pense qu'il faut vraiment, pour bien comprendre l'urgence de déposer le rapport, comme pourquoi est-ce que c'est important de le faire dès maintenant ou le plus tôt possible, bien, l'intelligence artificielle a une nature transformatrice. Ça offre des nouvelles perspectives pour des millions de Canadiens, pour les entreprises, pour notre économie. Et vraiment, avec le budget de 2025, on va aider le Canada à bâtir l'infrastructure de calcul nécessaire pour l'intelligence artificielle, notamment par la création d'un nuage.
One second, point of order, MP Mahal.
The budget itself is over 800 pages. This is not
a point of order.
It has to be relevant.
Yes, he's talking in regards to artificial intelligence.
The member
money is
oppositor
there.
is talking about the budget itself. Budget itself is over 800 pages.
It's not
the
a point of
doesn't
order.
have that much time.
To please stay on the topic, the motion which we have. Please go ahead, floor is yours.
Oui, bien, j'aimerais encore rappeler aux collègues, là, je sens que je me répète, mais c'est que la motion comme telle, je vais la relire s'il faut la relire, que le Comité permanent des sciences et de la recherche prolonge d'une séance son étude sur l'intelligence artificielle et que le comité invite à nouveau tous les témoins qui devaient comparaître le lundi 1er décembre 2025. C'est que l'enjeu qu'il y a, ces témoins-là, malheureusement, puis c'était pas notre choix à nous, parce qu'il y a eu, je dirais, du filibuster de la part de collègues de l'opposition à ce moment-là, et ça fait en sorte qu'on a débordé du temps. On était...
One person at a time. Mr. Deschamps, MP Deschamps-Terrier has the floor. So, I will just interrupt for a minute. Sorry for that.
Thank you.
We are already over 2 hours of the meeting. So, is everyone okay that we adjourn the meeting? MP Blanchet-Jonca?
Madame la Présidente, moi, c'est juste un point d'information. J'aimerais que vous puissiez m'aider, parce que là, le collègue dit que ça va ralentir l'étude. Mais j'essaie de comprendre son monologue. Est-ce que ça ralentit l'étude aussi? Puis un débat, est-ce que c'est juste une personne ou c'est différentes personnes? Parce que là, quand il parle tout seul, est-ce qu'il débat ou J'essaie de comprendre, Madame la Présidente, si vous pouvez m'éclairer
Sorry for
là-dessus.
that. He has the floor. He can is it the will of the committee to adjourn the meeting?
Oui.
Then we can suspend the meeting, and then Monday we will come back and take this topic. So.
Somebody go get him a glass of water.
We are over 2 hours. If there is no unanimous consent to adjourn the meeting, I'll suspend the meeting. The meeting is suspended, and Monday we will come back to this topic. Meeting is suspended.